Well, good morning. So, how are your expectations in the way of what you're trying to achieve? You know, what do you expect from life? What do you expect when you get up in the morning? What are the relationships that you're having? What are you expecting? And what are the expectations that you have for yourself and the things that are happening around you? So, my name is Edna Castillo, and I am with Living Reality Dreams Life Coaching. And today, I love to talk to you about expectations. All we hear about expectations is not to have them, right? You've heard things like, when you have expectations, you are just setting yourself up for disappointment. Or, the best way to avoid disappointment is not to expect anything. And in a way, it's true when you're setting expectations of other people. But what I am talking about today is setting the expectations as to what is possible. What is possible for you? So first of all, if you like this video, please, comment and go to my website and read more about it. So I would love to hear some feedback, whether this is useful or not. So let's get started. Expectations is actually one of the energies that is required in order to manifest what it is that you want. The first thing is your vision, right? And believing that it can be possible and then expecting it, that it is going to happen. So as an exercise to start seeing what your expectations are, I invite you to reflect on your expectations and even write them down. Notice what you're noticing about when you get up in the morning. What does the day look like for you in terms of your expectations? Are you already expecting to have a bad day, or to have a confrontation with someone, or to feel sick if you're getting a cough? What are your expectations? Because they will actually lead to your reality. So start examining and looking at what your expectations are. I actually encourage you to look at the thoughts, your beliefs, and the situations in your life, and then write down what is it that you're expecting. And once you take a look at that list, you can then formulate you can assess what your thoughts look like, because you can't change your thoughts unless you know what they are. And at times they're just so fast that we can't get a hold of them, right? So put them down on paper and see, are you a person that is expecting the best, or are you a person that is expecting the worst, or something in between? So Edna Castillo here believes to expect what you expect actually sets the bar for what you're going to be manifesting and what you are going to be achieving. So expecting is not like wanting or wishing or hoping. It is actually more of a decisive energy. Your subconscious mind is paying attention to that. So Raymond Charles Barker, the author of The Power of Decision, basically says that our subconscious mind is always in a state of expectancy. So it's always expecting information from you. And then what you're telling it, it actually believes it, and it actually thinks that it is the truth. So, you're wiring and firing these thoughts and creating pathways in your brain to form these beliefs. And so unless you're really aware of what you're expecting, you really don't know whether you need to unwind some of what you've been believing in your thinking. Athletes use expectation to create great results, right? We see in baseball, a baseball player sits at the plate or stands at the plate, and basically they expect to get that home run, to hit the ball out of the park. That's their expectation. That's the vision that they have. They're expecting to create great results. The swimmers, they expect to break those records. Runners, they expect to break those records. So it's nothing new that it's something that we can do. It's just that we are not using it to our ability in our normal stance of life. So I'd like to tell you two stories. of two of my clients. So one of my clients was having some trouble with taking a written exam at the DMV. So she had failed the exam, and this was creating quite a bit of angst in her nervous system. So I created some affirmations and some positive priming statements for her to say while she was studying for the exam. And also, we created a expectation that she would be sitting at the end, at the other side of the DMV clerks, and she would get the great news. You have your driver's license. So I asked her to expect that, to really, really hone in on that energy of creating that for herself. And to our surprise, or delight, I should say, to our delight, she had her appointment with the DMV. She went to the clerk, and instead of actually taking the test, the clerk says, "Oh, no, you don't need to take the test. We can actually just send you your license. So expect it in the mail." So the wonderful thing about that is that this is something that she manifested. She's a great manifester. And all of the worry and doubt and just disbelief that she had in her ability to pass that test, we really honed in on expecting that the answer would be, here you go, you have your driver's license. And that's exactly what happened with not even taking a driver's test. Obviously, she had already passed it years before, and this was just a retest that she needed to take. So the second story, it's fascinating to me because it actually involves me. And it's a client of mine that was telling me her story about when she was having surgery for breast cancer. So I had breast cancer surgery, as most of you know. And when I went into that appointment, I expected the best to happen. I expected that it was going to be an easy day. It was going to be a day in which I was interacting with all the medical people, and that, it was going to be a very expansive procedure. And I was going to be out of the care of the physicians that same day, and come home tonight, and then start working on my healing. I had no expectations of getting infected. I had no expectations of it going bad. I had no expectations of anything of the sort. And I had a great experience, to be honest with you. Yes, it wasn't wonderful to start to heal from the process of surgery, but my day went well. I had great experiences within the medical community, and the procedure went well. And I was discharged to come home to then, start mending, right? So the process was as easy as it could be. My client, on the other hand, had a different experience. From the very onset, she was in friction with the idea of having to not spend the night that day. So the surgery, unless there's complications, it's an in and out surgery. It's, you get the surgery and then you're out that same day to come home and during the night, recover and move on with your recovery. But her expectation was that she had to stay the night because God knows, she wouldn't be able to take care of herself. And what if things went wrong, and she wouldn't be able to basically do the things that needed to be done. She thought she needed the extra care during the night. So she went in from the onset about demanding that from the medical staff. I need to stay here. I don't know why you're thinking about discharging me. This is irresponsible. And she actually told me that she got into some discussions, not only with the doctor, but the nurses and some of the attendants, as to, being in that energy, that demanding energy of, I'm not satisfied because I think this is not going to be a beneficial surgery in terms of my recuperation. I'm going to need help recuperating. Well, one of the things that happened is that, yes, she was discharged that night. The experience of her surgery was not a pleasant one from the way she describes it. She describes the care that she received lacking in some way. I'm not going to go into the details because the story and the moral of the story is that when she got home, it actually got infected. So and there's no way of me proving whether if she had better thoughts, perhaps it wouldn't have happened, but there's no way I can prove this. But I believe, Edna Castillo believes that her thoughts are part of the reason that there was, some inability to heal as quickly and as fast and as efficiently as I healed. My attitude was different. My attitude with the medical community was different. Therefore, they treated me differently. Her attitude was very against them. God knows, I'm not saying they did it on purpose, but do you think that you will get the same type of care if you're fighting with them? Perhaps not. They're human beings, right? And when she went home, she received she got an infection, and then she had to have a redo where she had to go to the doctor's office and have it taken care of. So it got to be worse than what it could have been, or at least worse than my own experience. So you have those two stories of manifestation. Manifestation from the expectations that you have in life. So my question to you is, what is it that you're expecting? What is it you're expecting when you wake up in the morning? What is it you're expecting when you are in an illness? When you are ill, are you expecting health, or are you expecting to have more illness? If you're not happy, are you looking for things to be unhappy and continue that unhappiness? Or are you expecting to change that and then be happy? Expect to be happy. Expect the things to come to you that will make you happy. So it's a decision that needs to be had, right? That's why Raymond Charles Barker writes about it in the Power of Decision in that book, because it's a decision to expect the best for yourself. It's a decision to expect that, because it does play in your subconscious mind. There's studies with psychologists that indicate that. So my recommendation to you is to believe and expect that good things are on the way. And really, in all areas of your life, if you're going through circumstances right now that are not ideal, expect them to turn around any minute, and have that flow of energy of expectancy for the best. And if they don't, and things continue, the best thing to do when that occurs is to just start picking up the nuggets of information that you're given by the experience that you're living, because that's all information on how not to do it, or how to pivot from where you are. It's all just information. So with that, I wish you well. I hope that this really, really serves you, because it's something that I hold dear to me as I lived the cancer experience and held those positive thoughts and expectation for wellness. So if you want to learn more, go to my website, livingrealitydreams.com. There's all sorts of information there that you can tap into in order to create the life that you want. And this month, I'm having 2 workshops. So go to my events page and sign up for that. I love you very much, and I'll see you next week. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.